Danni Warren, the first time we've caught up since your first year with Sunrise has ended. It's obviously been a year to forget for many reasons, but obviously one which saw the birth of the Sunrises. How can you possibly sum up this year?
Well, we're not going to forget 2020 in a hurry, are we? It's been a whirlwind. It's been a roller coaster. You could throw loads of words at it, couldn't you? I suppose the overriding feeling is, I suppose, pride in what we've managed to achieve. There's been a lot of frustrations for people on and off the field, and that's not just cricket. That's the country, isn't it? So we've dealt with all those, and we've put it into things that we've taken away, worked on, learnt, and coming out the other end, there's a lot of optimism going into 2021.
Good to hear. Well, COVID hit us obviously in March. Back in April, you were appointed as regional head of women's cricket in charge of the Sunrisers. Busy time appointing staff, getting the squad together, trying to build a brand and build a team ethos. How difficult was it to pull all of that together with everything else going on around you?
Yeah. Funnily enough, looking back on it, the first couple of months where we weren't able to do anything were an absolute godsend, in that we had so much to do organisationally, trying to build our values, build our culture. Even something as silly as having a logo that we could stick on a shirt in August was going to be a challenge. So to have that time where you weren't distracted by anything. The ways that communication changed this year, we've all seen it, but the ease you could get hold of other people by talking on Zoom or Teams or even just over the phone, it was much simpler to pull some of those things together than it would have been. It felt very weird being in a world where we were looking forward and being really positive, while the cricket community as a whole were really uncertain about what was going on. So there were a lot of different emotions, but once we knew we were playing, that was like kind of full steam ahead. There was a real excitement that we were going to get out there, and it might have been down to the final minutes when we made sure we had everything in place to walk out on the field. But that's kind of the fun of this, isn't it?
Well, one of your first and I guess biggest appointments was that of Trevor Griffin as head coach. Trevor obviously joined the side, hugely experienced in women's cricket, and he's just returned from the Women's Big Bash League, having led Sydney Thunder to the title over there. That must be some justification that you've got the right man.
Yeah, do you know, he didn't have to win the Big Bash to prove to us we had the right man. He's someone that we were very keen at the outset to speak to and see if he wanted to come here. It links up the brands really nicely in our region with London Spirit. He's got a lot of experience within the women's game, but more than that, he's got a reputation for bringing the best out of players, and we always knew that as a new team we needed someone experienced at the top to lead us. I've learned a lot from Trevor. I know the girls have learned a lot from Trevor, so I dread to think where we'd be if we hadn't managed to secure him early on, and he's been brilliant, and I'm looking forward to him having that influence over the young players in the region, because if he can do half of what he's done elsewhere with these players, we're going to be in a really great place.
Great to hear. You mentioned obviously those young players in lockdown. How tough was it to pull a squad together? And when you managed to do so, how pleased were you with the girls you had in the squad?
Yeah, well, it was one of those where you really wanted to watch people play cricket, and you wanted to run a process, especially in year one of something new like this, where you were able to be really transparent about what you were doing, so that all of our counties, all of our partners were able to see what we were doing, and that wasn't possible. There wasn't a lot of cricket being played at the time, and it meant some communication, some real understanding from counties. We're really lucky. We've got a lot of people in the region who know women's cricket and know players very well. So making selections weren't difficult because we had really good knowledge of the player base around. It's never tough to pick people for a team like this because everyone wants to be in it. And when we did get out to watch games, there were people putting in performances that caught the eye. And it's not just about this summer. We could only pick 15 for this summer, but going forward, we know there's a lot of talent in the region, a lot of young players that we can work with over time, and that's part of the fun of this.
So when you eventually pulled that squad together, it was early July, you got them first up into summer training. Even that in itself was kind of socially distanced and all a bit strange. You then went into the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy in August. I guess it's fair to say it was a tough year, but then it was always going to be so, that new side coming together.
Yeah, it was, and it wasn't just the new side coming together. When you look back at it with a reflective glasses on, you realise we were in a very tough division, that when they regionalised the competition, we were playing against three established teams, three teams who had, in their previous guises, dominated the Kia Super League. And that's something that when we started to realise that, and that we were competing for large chunks of matches against these players, they had a lot of players that had played at that level. Our group aren't that experienced, and they've seen a bit of that level in some cases, but they haven't really had that wealth of game time or middle time, and they haven't played together. That was the big thing. We brought 15 girls together, some of which had never played with each other before, some of which had played a few times. So just trying to get those partnerships, those who opens together, who are your middle order, who are your bowling combinations. That was a challenge for Trevor and the coaches. So there were a lot of positives that came out of it, and we would have dearly loved to have got a win on the board, but we also finished it on a high with Trevor Griffin scoring 70 odd not out in the last game, and it almost typifies the group we have. She's 16 and she was batting with freedom and confidence, and that kind of finished the season off in a way that gave us a really good momentum into the winter.
Well, certainly gives you plenty of hope for 2021 and beyond. We're obviously back in winter training. It's all going on behind you here at a very cold Finchley. Apologies to anybody that's got a bit of background noise. That's the fans we've got here because of COVID security and safety. You talked about positives that you took from this year. This winter training, the next 4 or 5 months, presumably just allows you to work on those positives, build on the strengths, focus on the weaknesses, and go into 2021 much better prepared.
Absolutely. I think we always said that the summer was our chance to get to know our players. We didn't put any pressure on ourselves when it came to results. We just wanted to find out a bit more about players and give Trevor and those girls the chance to really hit the winter well. So this has kind of been what we have been working towards, and we came back in on Monday. It was actually colder in Cambridge than it was here today, so I've only got 3 layers on today as opposed to the 6 or 7 the other day. But they've been gagging to get out here. Like, they've had a really good physical block. They spent the whole of November. We started off in a group, and then we obviously went back into lockdown, so we were able to do some gym work with them. But the discipline they worked away from us with was amazing to see. They covered a lot of miles in physical challenges that were set by our S&C. So they're really, really keen to work on those things, and it's just nice to be able to get in here and hit some balls, bowl some balls, get some volume into the players. And we've never had this opportunity before. We've got a chance to get 12 hours of cricket into, well, not just the 5 pros, but a few others that can fit it into their lives around other commitments. And we've never had that before. So yeah, you're going to get better. You're going to learn a lot about yourself and your game, and that's only going to be seen on the field next year. So can't wait. Undoubtedly.
Danni, one final word on the 5 pros that have been given contracts this year, full-time pros for the first time. You've got 5 of them: Amara, Kelly, Naomi, Jo and Cordelia. What was it in those 5 that stood out to you to earn themselves a full-time pro contract?
It is a really good question, isn't it? Because you want to be trying to build down that every year. So trying to work out how you go about these decisions is an important thing for us. A big thing has always been about our environment. It's undoubted they've got cricketing skills. That was kind of obvious. All the girls that we work with have the potential and have some attributes that are going to get them to somewhere in the game. What those 5 bring, and it's not exclusive to those 5, but they do bring they bring a real sort of genuine love of the game. They really want to take this opportunity and run with it. They've all been around for a few years and have been seeing this coming on the horizon and working really hard towards it. So to see that in someone, to work like a professional when you're not a professional, you know you're going to get something great out of them when you are able to free them up to play cricket. So that's a big thing, and you also know that their characters are going to mix really nicely. We're really big around the environment. We want players that Trevor can work with, that encourage each other, that bring our values to life, and we couldn't have 5 better girls. But I'd say that across the board, all the girls that we're working with have that within them, and that's why we want to work with them. So it's exciting to see. I can't wait to see them take this and really run with it.
Danni, that's brilliant. Well, look, thanks ever so much for your time. I'll let you get back to winter training and casting a watchful eye over the girls. It's been a brilliant year. Well done for all you've achieved, and here's to a bright future for Sunrisers.
Thank you.